Hi, everyone. This is Steve Constantino, and thanks for joining me today on our webinar to talk about the 7 big ideas of family engagement. You know, over the years that I have been working in the field of family engagement and throughout the research that we have done and the programs that have been implemented and the action research that have been done, ideas begin to emerge that seem to be universal. Conditions, perhaps, things that really we need to understand in order to create that authentic family engagement that we're looking for, in order for family engagement to have a direct and hopefully positive result on student learning performance. There just seems to be a series of truths that has emerged. And a while ago, I sat back and started thinking about these ideas. And there's no magic to the number 7. It's just 7 things that I was thinking about that I thought were important. Some of these we have shared in workshops before. However, we have never shared them as a unit, as a group of ideas that might very well assist you in your quest to engage every family. We want to start today with a refocusing on a vision. You know, often I talk a great deal about the importance of vision and the importance that not only leadership have a vision for family engagement and for school improvement, but that all of the folks in an organization share that vision, a collaborative vision, that everyone sees that North Star that we're pointed to, and everyone is working in tandem toward creating that vision. Almost every school and every school district has a vision statement. And those statements are important to schools. They reflect the core values of the people within schools and districts. They reflect desire. They reflect what the future will look like. And they also reflect what we can expect from an organization. How will the organization operate? What will they do? What won't they do? And what are the ultimate goals of the organization? If you can tell all of that from a vision statement, then you've got a pretty good one. Many years ago, I decided to create a vision statement for the work that I do in family engagement. And I was motivated by a couple of things. One, it seemed to me that if I was going to teach and preach the importance of having a vision, that I ought to practice what I preach and teach. And secondly, I wanted a vision statement that was simple enough to relate to just about anybody, but also complex enough to do those things that I just explained a moment ago, to share the core values, to share expectations, to share the direction, to share the ultimate goals of an organization. So just like your school or your district, I decided to create my own vision statement for the work that I do. My vision statement is very simple. Every family, every teacher, every child, every day. 8 words. 8 words that tell you the core value of what I believe is important in education. 8 words that help you understand what you can expect in engaging with myself and my colleagues, or engaging with the idea of family engagement in your school or your district. The vision statement also tells you what you can expect. Every family, every teacher, every child, every day. I've shared this vision statement with lots of people over the years, and I have gotten a lot of folks who say, hey, you mind if we steal that vision statement? Not at all. You go right ahead. What would be wonderful is if we had a universal vision amongst all of our schools that simply said, every family, every teacher, every child, every day. And I've joked in the past that the beauty of the vision statement was you didn't really have to get them in this order. As long as you got all of them in there, it really didn't matter what order you put them in. Every teacher, every child, every family, every child, every teacher. What's most important is that we understand the components of the importance of relationships. We understand the linchpins and the foundation to engaging families in the academic and educational lives of their children. So let's move on now to the 7 big ideas in family engagement. Number 1, families are the first and most influential teachers of their children. You know, for a long time, I have heard many people say that families are the first and best teachers of their children. I'm not so sure that that is true. What I do know is true is that families have more influence over their children. You know, there is a research term called academic socialization. And that research term basically means this: the more that we can socialize families to the importance of what is occurring in school, and more importantly, what will occur in school, the more they will socialize their own children. Socialization and socialize are really other words for influence. So it seems to me that in order to be successful in family engagement, we have to influence the influencers. We have to be sure that our families understand why it is important that they are a partner in their child's educational lives, and we create conditions so that they may do just that. So big idea number 1, families are the first and most influential teachers of their children. Big idea number 2, most schools are adept at engaging the already engaged. Sometimes when we have events at schools, and there are as many different events as there are probably schools in the United States, some of those events, most of those events are very well attended. And it would be very simple to leave the end of the event thinking, wow, this went really well tonight. Did you see the number of people? The parking lot was filled. We really had a great turnout. I'm excited when that happens for any school, for any reason, for any event. But I would like to challenge you to go a step further. I'd like you to begin to identify who attended the event. And maybe even take it a step farther than that and begin to do a comparison of who attended the event and how their particular child or their particular children are doing in school. What we find to be most often the case is that we have been successful in engaging those families that are already engaged. Those that are disengaged, disenfranchised, or marginalized, or feeling marginalized from the school or school district, often are not in attendance. And so while I want to celebrate any opportunity for families to come together with us to support the learning of their children, I want to make sure that we understand too that we need to focus on the disengaged, not just the engaged. Big idea number 3. This is an important concept, one that I underscore all the time in speeches and workshops and working directly with schools and directly with school districts. Family engagement should never be about asking educators to do more. We are not in a period of time where we should be asking more of our teachers, more of our counselors, more of our staff. These have been very difficult times these last few years, and I suspect it's going to continue for at least a little bit longer. But even though the pandemic has created significant difficulties for us, it has also created significant opportunities. You see, the pandemic was really one of those situations in which families were engaged with what was going on in school. They watched it, they saw it, they interacted with it. Many of the studies that have already been done throughout COVID have already proven that a significant portion of families have a better appreciation for what teachers and school staff members do. But those very same studies also are saying that those families would like the level of engagement to continue. Well, in order to do that, we have to make sure that we don't overburden and overtax our staff. And so big idea number 3 is an important one, especially if you are considering something new with family engagement. If you're going to dig into perhaps the 5 simple principles or some other model of family engagement. Remember, family engagement is not about doing more. It shouldn't ever be about doing more. It should be about what we already do, only differently. There's a finite amount of time, a finite amount of research, a finite amount of energy, a finite amount of resources. So let's use what we have. Let's take the time, the energy, the research, and the resources that we have available to us today and ask ourselves a very simple question. What could we do differently tomorrow that wouldn't involve anything extra, but would produce a better result? Change is hard for organizations. Change is hard for all of us. But what I know to be true about authentic family engagement is if that is something we are truly interested in, committed to, then it stands to reason that there are going to have to be a few things that are changed, a few things done differently, rethinking what we do, why we do it, how we do it. Taking a step outside of our role as an educator and perhaps looking through the lens of a parent or a family member and asking ourselves, do you think that family member sees this procedure or this practice or this rule? Do you think they see it in the manner that it was ultimately intended? So where we have had great successes over time is when we can help schools and districts take a look at what we're doing now and say, look, we're not going to add anything else to your plate. Let's maybe remove a few things. Let's determine if we're getting that return on investment that we want. And if we're not, perhaps we should take that time, that energy, those resources, and apply them to something else or apply them differently. Big idea number 3 is family engagement is not about doing more, but about doing what we already do differently. Big idea number 4. Family engagement is a process, not an event. A lot of times, schools and districts across the country want to include family engagement goals in strategic plans or school plans or improvement plans. But I will acknowledge that it can be challenging to find a way to evaluate the degree to which family engagement improves something. How do we measure the effectiveness of family engagement? And if somebody turns to us and says, you need to submit a goal or goals regarding family engagement, what will we do? Well, what's natural is to take a look at the way we define family engagement now. When we have events at school, For example, at the elementary level, we might have math night or literacy night. At the middle school, we might have science fairs and other kinds of activities. At the high school, we would have academic nights, or we might have college preparation night, or all kinds of opportunities for families to seek information and to engage. So it becomes natural then that we would say, well, in order to improve family engagement or to increase family engagement, our goal is going to be to try to get more people to attend a particular event or a particular set of events. Well, that is natural, but can we say with certainty that because we got more people to attend something, that we actually improved or increased their engagement? Measuring the number of people who attend events is a very common way to create family engagement goals. And as a result of that, it drives these, let's do more events, or let's expand the events that we have. But let me go back for a moment. If I sat down with a group of teachers and I said to the teachers, you know, we're experiencing some learning loss in reading comprehension. And I would love for you as a group of professionals to take a look at our data, take a look at our reading program, and make some recommendations as to what you think we should do to turn the tides on and get our reading comprehension going back in the right direction. What would those teachers do? Well, it seems to me that first they would look at the standards and look at the curriculum and make sure that there's alignment between what is being taught and what is being expected to be learned from the state standards or national standards. We would then look at probably methodologies and materials. We would look at pedagogy, strategy. We would also probably look at assessment to determine, you know, are we assessing reading appropriately? Or maybe it's the design of the assessments we're using that is giving us information that is different from what we've got in the past. Who knows? But let me review: standards, curriculum, instruction, methodology, assessment. What is that? That's a process. There is a process to teaching reading. There's a process to teaching. There's a process to everything. We wouldn't say, well, you know, to improve reading comprehension, let's have a big meeting Wednesday night for an hour. I don't know that the teachers would tell us that. That might be part of what we do, but that wouldn't be all of what we do. That's why the 5 simple principles have been created the way they have. The 5 interlocking ideas create a process that, when followed, can begin to implement family engagement and, most importantly, help us find new ways of measuring family engagement by attaching the actions, the objectives, and the strategies of family engagement directly to the learning goals that we have set for our school or for our district. So big idea number 4, family engagement is a process, not an event. Idea number 5, we work tirelessly to build relationships with all of our families. And I am so impressed with the activities that are happening in schools. I am in a unique situation because I get to visit schools and school districts all over the country, all over the world. And I'm always inspired by the activities, the events, the ideas that schools have to welcome families, to nurture that relationship, to invite them in, to have a concept of open arms. We spend a great deal of time building those relationships. But when we do that, those relationships then have to go somewhere. They have to be the first step, the foundation, if you will, of something. Now, we hope that those relationships are going to be the foundation we need to improve family engagement or fully engage families in the educational lives of their children. We also know through research that one of the most effective ways to do that, that is to not only engage families with school, but to engage families in the learning lives of their children, is to increase their self-efficacy as a parent or a family member, to empower them to have a real role. And so big idea number 5 really marries two very important concepts. One, that we seek to build trusting relationships. We seek to drive fear out of relationships. We want to make sure that everything that we do in school, we are transparent, that we are looking to partner with families, that we understand that we cannot successfully alone help every child be successful. And we take those relationships to the next step, to the engagement step, and say, once we have those relationships, then we can begin to promote the efficacy. That's why, if you're familiar with the 5 simple principles, you know that communication in relationships is principle number 2. Build family efficacy is principle number 3, because we need that relationship first to promote the efficacy. And if we don't, then the relationship goes nowhere. So let's build upon the work that we're doing with relationships with all families. Big idea number 6. There's a direct correlation between students who are struggling in school, underserved, underperforming, and the relative levels of engagement or disengagement of their families. Imagine for a moment my 2 fists. This is a rather crude visual, but it'll serve the purpose. In my right fist, this fist represents family engagement or families who are disengaged. In my left fist, it represents underperforming or students who are struggling in school. What we know to be true is that those 2 things are connected, and they're not connected with a piece of string that allows them to do this. They're connected with, well, for lack of a better term, kind of a steel rod. They only move in tandem. And so when we realize that one of the components of struggling students is the lack of engagement of their families, we then start to think about taking some of the resources that we have been applying directly to students. I mean, most schools that I am aware of, when we have students struggling in school, what do? Well, we get all the resources we possibly can, and where do we place them? We place them directly on those students. We might give them extra support. We might bring in extra staff, extra materials, extra technology. We might give them extra time. There's all kinds of things that we do to try to promote better learning. Well, this concept, big idea number 6, tells us, you know, if we took some of those resources and we use them to build our capacity to engage families, and those resources ended up allowing us to have more families in the engaged column than in the disengaged column, well, guess what? That engagement will pull up learning. So big idea number 6 is an important one. There's a direct research correlation between the underserved and the struggling students and the disengaged or the disenfranchised families. And lastly, big idea number 7. Without a process to build staff capacity to engage and promote family efficacy, the process cannot be sustained over time. How many times have we tried new things? We had all of the best intentions of implementing new ideas and seeing them to fruition. But for one reason or another, they sort of disappeared. We stopped doing them. Maybe it was the tyranny of the urgent, or maybe the idea never really resonated with enough of the staff to make it actually happen. Well, family engagement is not immune to those kinds of issues. If we want this to be a robust portion of the work that we do in our schools, if we truly want family engagement to have an impact on student learning, then it becomes critical that we have significant professional development in family engagement. Why? Well, we want to expand the capacity of all of our staff members who are doing good work now, but to help them understand that there are also other things that we can do that would engage other families. We want to make sure that our staff understands why family engagement is important. What does over 50 years of research tell us about family engagement? You know, even though it is much improved today than it was perhaps 10 or 15 years ago, there are still a large number of teacher preparation programs that don't include in-depth family engagement work as part of the core learning for those who wish to enter the field of teaching. So if we have teachers coming into our profession who have not been exposed to the research and best practice in family engagement, well, they're left up to their own devices. And that's not a good situation for any kind of an organization. So the degree to which that we can expand the capacity of people in an organization becomes central to us being able to sustain the effort over time so that it doesn't peter out, so that it doesn't just disappear. So we don't get to May and think, gee, what happened to that family engagement work that we're doing? Oh, I don't know. Mid-year testing came or something came and we just don't do it anymore. Let's not let that happen. And a focus and an effort on supporting teachers, supporting school staff, giving them the space, giving them the training, giving them the knowledge of family engagement is only going to end up being a dividend for your school or your school district. I want to invite you to take a look at something new that we're doing in our organization. We have begun a series of unique year-long explorations into family engagement. And what you see on the screen right now is the web address of the next cohort that we're going to be launching, the national cohort, Engage Every Family, 5 Simple Principles Leadership Cohort. It's designed for teams of people or individuals from schools and school districts to come together and spend an entire year with me looking at authentic family engagement, understanding exactly how to implement, giving you the tools, the processes, allowing you the time not only to collect some information and implement some of these ideas, but to share them with educators from all over the country. Take a look by going to drsteveconstantino.com, Engage Every Family Learning Cohort. Our next cohort begins in January 2022, and it would be wonderful if we saw you there. So the 7 big ideas. Once again, Maybe next year there might be 8 big ideas or 9 big ideas. This is not designed to be a comprehensive list of everything you need to know to be successful in family engagement. It is a list of things that we have learned over the years that have to be in place in order to be successful. Thanks again for tuning into the webinar. I'm so glad, I'm so pleased with your support, your interest, and your encouragement of our work in family engagement. And if, as always, if there's anything that I or our organization can do for you, I hope that you'll let us know. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen. Make it a good one. Bye-bye.